I remember hearing the 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. time window is best for meditation. Is this specific to one time zone, like Costa Rica? Would it mean that here it's 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.? No, it's not. We're not the Greenwich Mean Time of Brahma Muhurat here. What that time symbolizes, because it's symbolic as well as real, is what in Sanskrit is called the sandhya, S-A-N-D-H-Y-A. It's the conjunction of the night with the day. And it starts at 4 a.m. because it's still in the dark of the night. And then that darkest hour just before the dawn brings the light. But even while the darkness is still there, you start to hear the roosters crowing and the birds begin to sing and life begins again. So it's a fractal externally that manifests your own transition from ego to self, from the darkness of the chronos mind into the light of ion. And it's this transition through the kairos meditative mind that brings one from the dark to the light. But that light is always shining within you. Why is there night and day? It's only that the earth turns away from the sun and then goes back. So if you will stop revolving and moving away and then having to return, but stay in the sun itself, then you shine forever on the whole planet without there being the duality of light and dark. What is considered the right amount of meditation per day? 24 hours. Is there a risk of doing too much per day or week, which is possibly slowing down your metabolism? Are there any health risks? Very interesting question. If you're meditating properly, your life is your meditation, and it doesn't require sitting for a specific time. That's for beginners. You first have to reach nirvikalpa samadhi, which is when your mind has completely become free of thoughts, vikalpas. But then you have to learn to stay in that state while the body is active. It's easy to do it when the body is sitting still, or easier. It's not so easy to stay in that still point when the body is active. And that's the practice, being in sahaja samadhi. So that's the remembrance of the self that must go on constantly. There has to be ceaseless presence, and that takes practice. But what that state will do is eliminate stress, which is the best thing for your health, and it will enable lucid clarity so you don't make any bad judgments and create any harmful karma that could create suffering. And you will be filled with the divine love light, the pure power of life itself. So how could that be a risk to your health? And it will give you the wisdom to understand the symptoms that may already be affecting the health of the body and allow them to be lessened or transformed into power of healing. So I hope that answers that one. When Bhagavan left his body, Sri Ramana, he means, Many people noticed a meteor which suddenly left the ashram and disappeared behind the temple. Is this related to the final step that Shunya mentioned? Well, actually, my take on it is it wasn't a meteor at all. It was a UFO, and it was the aliens paying their respects to the sage and then flying off. And it was seen not just to the temple, it was seen all the way past New Delhi from South India. But it was a streaking light that never produced a meteor that could be found. No, it was a UAP phenomenon, if you will. But no, that was not the final sign of anything. He didn't need a final sign because he had made the final step years earlier. There was no longer any being in the body actually to leave the body. The body's pranic force was simply the winding down of a fan that's been unplugged, and it just takes a while before it stops. And at that point, it stopped, and his body expired, but it had nothing to do with Ramana. Okay, hope that's clear. In your opening satsang, you mentioned the possibility of the world ending soon. This resonated with me. That's good, particularly in light of similar prophecies in various belief systems, indeed, including an interpretation of the great sign in heaven in the book of Revelations. Yes, that's true, which has in particular influenced me a great deal, especially that according to this interpretation, a major event is happening in 2024. Yes, I think several of them, in fact. However, this focus on an impending apocalypse has led me to neglect almost entirely any long-term planning or a sense of hope for my future. The question is, how can I find balance? Is there a way to live a normal life while carrying this knowledge in the back of my mind? What if nothing happens, at least in my lifetime? Well, that's pretty unlikely. And since you say, events will happen this year, you don't have too long to wait, do you? But the point is, anyone who even just reads the news knows that the U.S. Treasury is more than bankrupt. It's in unpayable amounts of debt. And no one has confidence in the dollar anymore, and they're de-dollarizing like crazy, and it will not be able to be held up by monetary manipulation for much longer, and it will crash. And when that crashes, the whole system that has become the global financial system will crash. They're trying to create an alternative in China and Russia and Iran, etc. But right now, that isn't complete either, and there are conflicts with those BRICSes as well. So there is a situation now in which chaos is about to ensue, if only on that level. And if you're really reading carefully, you see that there's a food shortage that's been engineered, that's on the way, and many other depopulation efforts that are part of the perfect storm of what is being deliberately planned. So in any case, your long-term planning is not in a situation where you can depend on the economic system or the social system that's in most countries in a state of collapse or bankruptcy and internal chaos. So if you are wise, your long-term planning will be about how do you get through this time of tribulations, not by being in denial and thinking you can plan your retirement for 20 years from now, but how do I survive through the food shortage and the water shortage that will be coming to many and other things until I reach the state of Jivan Mukti. Well, if you're interested in that and you're not already in Jivan Mukti, then consider that you're in the final days and you must follow the Tao of the final days, which isn't a plug for a book, but is a recognition that there is a vibrational frequency that you have to be on to hear what it is that you should be doing with your life right now in order to navigate through these very non-normal times. But I think that's enough said about that. I find it a lot easier to quiet the mind now after having been attempting it since my awakening process started. However, at times I feel confused and disoriented because when there are no thoughts in my direct experience, the mind tries to interfere and conceptualize what the true self is experiencing with no thought interference and turn it into an idea. Sometimes the thoughts are subtle. How can I tell that I am, or how can I stay on the pathless path? Okay, this is an important question because when you do reach the silence of the ego mind, you will receive thoughts, but you will know that these are not thoughts that came from you but are given to you, if they are God's thoughts. And then if you look at them, if you simply grok what the thought is, which you will in that state, intuitively, without having to think about it, it will be wisdom that opens your perception to a deeper understanding of reality. If it doesn't do that, then it was an ego thought that was diverting you. And so if it's a thought about your ego, or how should you plan your future, or something like that, no, don't buy into it. But if it's a thought that enables you to overcome a certain obstacle that kept you from the infinite self, and then by following the message in the thought, you free yourself, then you've received a very important act of God that is grace. And you may also receive thoughts of how to help others. That's what is called the bodhicitta, that a bodhisattva will have, a mind of a healer, and a mind of not just compassion, but of the wisdom to understand and release someone from their symptoms of suffering. So these are important thoughts, but they have to come from the mind of God, not from the ego mind. While being on the pathless path of being, I often have to use the discernment of thought for work. Is there a way of keeping the mind still while functioning at work? My type of work involves using financial strategies. Oh, you ought to talk to this other guy and help him plan his life. And this is very challenging for me. What would you suggest for me, as this is my only form of income? Well, it may not be for long, but until then, it's actually good that you have that kind of service to do, because it will easily enable you to see that calculation is done by the ego mind without your needing to get involved. Everything that happens at the financial level is happening in accord with a certain frame of reference in which the replies come in accord with the principles of economics. And the observing self can and in fact will function more accurately by staying in the 0 point. And then the answers to whatever are the questions of your client or whoever will come from a very wise soul level of your consciousness, at least, that will enable someone to make the right financial decisions, so long as that's the system you're operating in. Okay. I find, this is the last one, fortunately, so if there's anyone here who has a question after that, please don't hesitate. I find that there are more converging of many events that are happening, in my experience, that is creating a sense of business. I'm not sure what you mean by that. This is taking up a lot of free time to meditate, so I often do self-inquiry methods that quiet the mind while I am active. That's good. Sometimes emotional energies, specifically sadness, worry, and fear, move through the body in my experience. How can I calm these energies and feel through them in my awakening process? Well, that is precisely what self-inquiry is for, is to see that those emotions come from a primitive level of ego consciousness, and they are not yours. They are leftovers from infancy. Those sadness and worry and fear, they are part of a child ego structure. When those sanskaras are dissolved, those feelings will disappear. They won't remain in your mind. But only the silence that realizes those are not your emotions and that has no interest in entertaining them any longer and enjoying the jouissance of those worries and sad thoughts, that melancholy, feeling that there are some egos that are addicted to it. You have to let go of it and enjoy the perfect peace of total stillness. And then your self-inquiry is achieved. Okay, I hope that answers all questions. Did we get any others?
Yes, one from Tibby, who asks, what are some practical ways to master your mind, especially in the middle of the night when you aren't aware of the thought, but you just feel the emotion?
Are you talking about a dream state then? If you're talking about a waking state in the middle of the night, or a thought that comes in a dream that wakes you up because of its emotion, then I would say it's a message that has come to you for you to meditate on, and then I would get up earlier than 4 a.m., and sit and or lie down and be in that state of presence until the meaning of the underlying root of the emotion in that thought is uncovered, and it's turned into pure energy and wisdom, and then it will leave. And so it's part of the healing process to receive those kinds of thoughts. And in the middle of the night, you're most vulnerable to getting them because the ego is starting to lose consciousness. So that is the time when you must be extra alert. And gradually you will learn to be lucid in your dreams. That's a whole other subject, and maybe we'll even do a retreat on that subject. But becoming lucid in your dreams, then you need to go beyond that into being lucid in deep sleep. And then realize that you're in deep sleep right now, even while you're awake. And you're also dreaming. You're in all three. But you're also in the fourth avastha, the turiya, that is aware of all of that simultaneously and not identifying with any of it.